apologies. Thank you.
No problem. Some of us have a job.
Yes, I wish I hadn't had to be doing what I was doing. I would have rather been here.
You up, good? All right, there you go. Here we go. This is the time and place for the City Commission meeting in Huron, South Dakota on September 25th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Smith.
Here.
Weinrich.
Here.
Wright.
Here.
Harvey.
Here.
Mayor Harrington.
Here. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda approval. Does anybody from the commission have anything you want to change on the agenda or add or delete? I do have one thing. We're going to take off number 3 on our contractual and executive session. We're going to move that from the agenda tonight. So I need a motion to approve.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Commissioner Bragg moved to approve. Second, Mr. Weinrich. Roll call vote, please.
Smith.
Aye.
Weinrich.
Aye.
Bragg.
Aye.
Harvey.
Aye.
Mayor Harrington.
Aye. Okay, public forum. Public forum is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per person. Please state your name and address for the record. Do we have any public forum from the commission tonight? Seeing none, do we have anybody from the audience? Seeing none, we'll move on. The city commission adjourns to convene as a board of adjustment for the following public hearings. To consider a variance request filed by Adam Ratchin to allow a single-family residence at 227 Dakota Avenue North, which is not permitted as zoned. I'll turn this over to our city planner, Barry.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. In your packet, you have the memorandum that shows the variance was heard last Wednesday. There was both proponents and opponents in the crowd making testimony. I believe they are all here tonight again. So the staff, as well as the hearing examiner, all recommended approval of this variance. So with that, I turn it back to the commission for your testimony by the proponents and opponents.
Okay. Do we have the opponents here tonight? Adam, you want to come up?
Yeah. Yep, my name is Adam Ratchin, address is 965 Idaho, here in Huron. So what I proposed is to put a single-family residence in the Coke building, which is a commercial building, and we've had trouble with leasing it, so instead of selling it, I own half of it, I'd buy the other half from my brother, who owns the other half, and he's out of town. And I'd put up a residence in there. It'd be like a house. I can put my RV in there and all my vehicles inside. And wouldn't change the building too much. We'd put some windows on the Dakota Avenue side. Then maybe 2 windows on the south side. And that's it.
Do you have any questions for Adam tonight from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Smith.
Adam, I was kind of gazing at the layout of that. You said you'd have 2 on the south side, 2 windows?
Yeah. Well, there's already one. It's a large glass block window
Yeah,
that would
it's
remain
pretty
there.
closed off, yeah.
And then there's another office window. It's smaller than the actual opening of the building, so I would make it back to the original size that was there. And then perhaps maybe add 1 more smaller window.
Anything on the north side or?
No. No.
Nothing on the east?
Nope. On the east side would be Dakota, I guess, so yeah, on the east side.
You'd have some windows there.
Right. Yep. That would be second floor windows primarily. There'd be one main floor window on the Dakota Avenue side.
Okay,
Yep.
I gotcha.
Adam, are you looking at this being your primary residence then?
Yes.
And then what about the loading dock area? If you're gonna park your RV and stuff, are you gonna fill in that lowered area or keep it as is?
I'd keep it as is that way. Like we've had material delivered, and if you have a loading dock, it's pretty handy because that back would all stay the same. That would all stay kind of like a warehouse or garage.
Any other questions for Adam from the commission?
And you said, Adam, you had attempted to find somebody to rent it or lease it as a commercial.
Yeah, we've had a sign posted up there since our last, we had Upper Midwest in there. Since they've moved out, we put a sign up. I did get one phone call after our meeting, that they expressed some interest in it, so. Like, this isn't gonna be an immediate deal, it'll be something that's, if I got a leaser, I'm gonna lease it. But if it's where we sit empty for months on end, and it's not doing anything for us, I just assume sell my house in town and move over there.
Here, I would like to address something. In the hearing, one of your neighbors was raising the question of having a living in industrial
Right.
zoning. And then one of the concerns was kids riding bikes in pretty busy street, pretty busy avenue area. Anything to say about that, or that's the
My
way it
kids are
is?
in college, so I don't have any, wouldn't have any kids running around,
Okay.
yeah.
Anything more for Adam? Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have any opponents on this who would like to get up and speak today?
I don't know if you call me an opponent, but
Okay,
questions,
I won't do that
concerns,
again.
You know, whatever you decide, you guys are the experts in this. I just have questions or concerns that I want to address.
Name and address, please. Your name and
Oh, I'm
address.
sorry, Sherry McGilvery, and it comes to P.O. Box 138 in Huron.
Okay, thank you.
And meal comes. I own basically half of the block there. So I own lots 1, 2, and 3 to the north where the Sparkle Car Wash is, and then lots 7, 8, 9, and 10 to the east side where G&T Repair is at. I rent it to them. I've had the property since mid-2005, so they've been commercial properties, and there are times when, you know, maybe I've gone without a renter for a month or two, but pretty much I've always had renters and people asking and wanting. But I guess how, you know, you guys are in the real estate and zoning and stuff, will that, having a single-family residence in the front of my property like that, will that affect my resale at all? Will it make it not attractive for someone wanting a business? You know, he states in the application that it will decrease traffic. Well, anybody that's in business knows you look at traffic counts, and in commercial you want increased counts because you want businesses around that will bring more business to the other businesses. So I just want to know it's not gonna hurt me in either building price-wise or, you know, somebody wanting to be there. And I don't know if that's something anybody can tell me or not. It is zoned commercial. We have zones for a reason, and the traffic, you know, we've got truck traffic there. It's not like downtown where you've got traffic lights that slow things down, and they're used to storefronts where, you know, people, you're expecting people to come out behind vehicles. So, you know, I have some safety concerns that I don't know if there's things you can put in to address it. I'm assuming, you know, he said he doesn't have kids. I have 2 grown kids, but I have 7 grandkids, 4 that live in the area, which are always at my house along with half of the neighbor kids. So, you know, maybe there's not gonna be kids there now, but at some point down the road, if he decides to sell or he rents it out, I don't know if there's any kind of safety things that you could put in to slow traffic. You know, there's not a front yard or backyard or place for kids to play football in. They're gonna go somewhere. I have a paid lot. I already have skateboarders and bicycles in there, so I don't know if there's something, if it gets approved, that can be put in place to address that kind of safety issue. I think they brought it back in like 2017, so they knew it was commercial at the time. But, again, I don't wanna stop anybody else's progress, but I don't want mine hurt in the process. Sometimes I feel like when you know, there's new development areas and the city is out and they're trying to promote business and they're doing everything they can to get businesses in there. Sometimes they forget about the businesses that have been here for years and years and years, and making sure they're doing the best thing for all of those businesses also. So I just wanna know it's not gonna hurt the things that I've owned for years. And I don't know if those are answers that you have, but I trust you all, and it perhaps history and real estate or whatever shows that it's not gonna hurt me, but that's why I have the questions that I have. And when you look down the street, you know, they're commercial businesses, every single one of them. There's Kurt's Heating and Cooling, there's the King Seed Building, all those huge tanks in the front. There are some homes in that area back in between there and the tanks, and I don't have any problems with them, but they do have yards, and I think there's sidewalks there that don't go across your driveway. Guess I don't know that for sure. You got the storage units, Smooth Electric across the street, Fair City, Jensen Feed, Napa, Carlson's, you know, and then you got the big intersection by Taco John's, and pretty much north of there is all housing and stuff. And you're used to houses on both sides of the street, so just take it into consideration if you pass it, if there's anything you can do to address those kind of things. I don't know what they are, I don't have the answers, but that's what I would be looking for.
Any questions for the commission?
I have a question for Barry, if I could,
Yes.
just in regards to something. So
Yes.
she made reference to future state. So right now, you know, we'd be approving this for Adam to live there as his personal residence. But what happens once this is approved later on down the road? Can he sell it or lease it, or can someone else use it under this, or does it have to come through this process again? Or?
No, it's, once the variance is passed, it stays with the property.
Okay.
Unless for some reason this body chooses to rescind it.
So it doesn't go off of ownership.
No, it does not, it stays with the property.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that it would be an owner occupant all the time. It could be a renter or something as well.
I have another question for you, Barry. How did you come to your opinion to approve it? And, you know, is it your personal opinion in your office, and same with the building inspector? You know, some variances you guys recommend denial, some you recommend approval, so maybe you can explain to us how you came to that agreement, or that.
Well, we looked at the
recommendation.
situation from the perspective of, you know, he's trying to do something to improve his property. And so that was one of the things we all looked at, and same with the hearing examiner, you know. He felt like he's trying to improve his property, and so there was really no justification. There was testimony against it, I realize that, but there was no legal justification to deny it, per se. So we all recommended for it, just simply to help improve the property.
And you don't, I'm just asking a question here, and you don't believe that this would create a precedent of allowing this in a commercial area that anybody?
We already have,
That anybody else would then come and say?
yeah, we already have that. This kind of situation already exists in a number of places. Jeff Bonnell, with his residence on the main floor of his building with Pop, or that's probably the most recent case.
I would just, going back to, and I hate to bring up a different variance request, but going back to when we dealt with the roof, and that kept getting brought up from multiple people on this commission, that, well, if you let one, then you gotta let the next person who asks. And so, that's what my question was coming,
And that's,
pertaining to that.
yeah, that's a good question.
Do we have any more opponents? Yes, come on up, sir.
I wouldn't call it an opponent.
Yeah, I guess I'm wrong. Both of you have been correcting me. Give me something to call you then. What's your name and address?
I'm Gary Spicer.
Okay.
I own GT Repair right next door to it. I'm not opposed to a single family, like Adam and his family moving in there. But like he brought up, the topic is, if he moves out, we all know how the Asians and the Guatemalans and the Mexicans, we don't just rent to one family, there's 4 or 5 or 6 families move in. That's quite a big area. He's talking about putting 3 bedrooms in on the upper floor, 1 bedroom on the bottom. To me, that's 4 families. That's the only concern I have, is once he does do this, decides, oh, I don't like this anymore, moves on, we're gonna be back here doing the multifamily application again. I'm just worried about, and I'll bring up another thing. We got dismissed at 12:15. I got retaliated on by Butch at 4:15, 4:20. He come over and told me to move all my stuff off his property. I didn't even have 4 hours to go back and move my stuff. He come in and raised Cain with me. I had an office full of people. He didn't even have the respect to call me back out of the office and talk to me one-on-one.
I
He come in there and made a big stink about it.
I appreciate that, but this
And
is.
another thing that I
This
need
is a
to do-
variance question, it isn't a personal question. so-
Right, I'm not saying that, but anyways, that's what happened. The other thing is how did Cheddar's out there at Lankota, they used to live up above that, now they can't. Why do we approve this and not approve theirs? That's what I'm getting at. Another thing is the parking issue down there, where we're at, we're talking same property. I don't know what we're gonna do on property, we've got the city inspector and the police department looking into that after the meeting last week, or this week. There's just a lot of things going on that I don't understand.
Could you elaborate?
I'd like some clarification.
Could you elaborate? What, seems to me like there's plenty of parking. What was your concern about parking?
Parking on the street, which come in and says you can't park from the pole all the way to the street. Well, there's a curb there on part of it, and the city police department and the Chris Newman said, if there's a curb there, I can park there. I understand, I've done all the snow removal for, I think, 9 years or 10 years over there with the ability to park. But now after I come into the meeting, now I can't no longer park there, I can't go on the property. So if this is gonna be a continuing thing, I would say no. That's my concern.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Commissioner Harvey, I don't want to put you on the spot, so don't answer if you don't feel comfortable, but, with your profession, would you even want to hazard any sort of thought on what kind of impacts this would have for property values?
Huron's, I would say, kind of a mixed bag. We have commercial and residential and old and new right next to each other in a lot of different neighborhoods. I understand the residential aspect above a downtown building. I understand wanting to make something out of a building that you're not necessarily able to lease. I understand that, because he's got money tied up in that, so I get that. Kind of an off location to put a residence, in my personal opinion, because it's smack dab in the middle of everything commercial for the most part. But to utilize a building that you have, I understand and comprehend that. As far as neighboring property values, I personally don't foresee that being an issue. I think that, you know, like I said, you've got old and new and commercial and residential mixed all over this community. I don't foresee him having a residence in there as necessarily being a downfall for your car wash or anything like that. I do like the aspect that he said he was putting in like a black commercial grade frame window in that. I think it would clean it up a little bit. But there again, on the flip side, we're eating up a commercial building for residents, so in a pretty commercialized area.
Any other questions? We have time. Is there any other people who'd like to get up and speak?
Have you tried to rent it out?
Well,
You-
we have a
it's been
sign up
sat-
there, yeah.
sat
We've got a
empty.
sign up there, but
Because typically I have not had problems with the building, but mine's all fenced in, which is probably attractive too. And I usually have people asking this.
I know he's got one serious candidate looking at it right
Anything, Barry?
Oh, just that, for the record, everybody on the two staff members and the hearing examiner again recommended approval. Other than that, no, I don't have anything further.
I'd have
Yes,
a
Commissioner
question. Maybe just to address some of the things that you brought up, Sherry, as far as the future value of how this might impact your business, kind of a hard thing to comprehend at this point. I don't think any of us can predict the future of it. I would agree with Mr. Spicer in the fact that if it were considering to be used more as a multifamily facility, say you're requesting this to be like a fourplex or something like that, that'd be a different take on it. I wanted to kind of roll back on the parking conversation. So in a typical residence, you would have curbside parking, correct?
Correct.
And with this being zoned currently as industrial, is there a required amount of
No.
parking area for that?
No, there is not. This is all drive over curb, because Coke used this as a parking lot.
Sure.
So you're saying there's a curb that whole,
Yeah. With
No,
the exception,
that's not correct.
it's,
There's
I
20
believe it stops right here is where that drive over stops. So it doesn't go clear down to Gary's place. It stops right before the alley, I believe.
And there is an entire parking lot there.
Yeah.
I think we measured, it's 22 feet, we have a curb there.
You can see the drive over curb right there, where trucks used to come in and park and unload and.
Are you going to change the exterior in any manner other than windows and doors?
no, just windows, yeah. What?
there's a painted brick.
Is there any ability to put in the variance, I know you stated before the variance goes with the property.
Mhm.
Is there any latitude on qualifying that as long as he owns it and lives in it, that it's permissible?
Not that I'm aware of, that's maybe a question for our city attorney.
Yeah, as a general matter, the commission has the authority to put any conditions on these variances they
Yeah.
want.
But how would we know if he sold the property and deeded it? How would, this body would have no idea that that transpired?
That's correct, you need a mechanism in place to monitor that.
So we can put whatever we want in a variance, but is it gonna, how are we gonna be notified or aware of those type of situations?
Yeah, legally, you may not have those mechanisms, but neighborhood report possibly. Depending on when that would happen.
That makes it a little tough for the applicant.
That's what I was
Assuming there's
thinking.
gonna be expenses tied to this, and if you say you're gonna sink the money into the property, but then if you go to sell it, you can't sell it as that, somebody's gotta, that just would be,
It'd be money completely out of the pocket.
I'm just seeing it as an option.
Our city attorney, Mr. Valesky, was asked to look into the parking situation, and so we've asked for him to, would you like to speak on that?
Yeah, so, based on the ordinance and the South Dakota law, you cannot park in front of a driveway. If that's a driveway, you can't park in front of it on the street. Now, there may be an issue of whether or not that there is a driveway. Our ordinances don't clearly define what a driveway is. It's just clear that you can't park in front.
But how wide is the driveway issue?
It does not specify in the ordinance.
I know we got something going on down in front of some, advanced seed down there about the same thing the city was telling me about, and we gotta get it addressed. How wide is there? We don't need a 220-foot driveway or 200 feet driveway.
And there may need to be ordinances to address that if it's an issue. It's very sparse as to what a driveway is and what it isn't.
So,
But if there's an issue, obviously, and it went to court, the court would interpret whether or not that's a driveway.
so what they gotta interpret, if we have a drive-over curb, or if we have a curb, the court's gotta interpret that.
Right, and there is no criteria in the ordinance to interpret what a driveway is. It'd be a matter of first impression.
All right. Very good, thank you. Appreciate it. Any other questions on this topic that the commission would like to ask or make comments on?
and this is another one that requires a 2/3 vote.
Yeah, this requires a 2/3, that's correct.
Mayor, I move to approve.
Yeah, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second on this motion?
Second.
A second by Commissioner Bragg. So I need a roll call vote on this item. Was aye, and if we ask for,
Yeah, I as an affirmative vote, yes.
make sure everybody knows that. Okay?
Smith,
Aye.
Wainwright,
No.
Bragg,
Aye.
Harvey,
No.
Mayor Harrington.
Aye. Didn't pass.
Does not pass.
Does not pass. Had to get a 2/3 vote, I didn't get the 2/3 vote, so it didn't pass. Okay? Thank you for your all. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, moving on. What's next? The Board of Adjustments adjourns to reconvene as a city commission. Consent agenda is next on the items. Consent agenda, matters appearing at the consent agenda are expected to be non-controversial and will be acted on by the city commission at one time without discussion. Unless a member of the commission requests an opportunity to address any given items, the items will be removed from the consent agenda and be discussed at the beginning of the formal items. Consent agenda for tonight's evening is 6.1, minutes of September 18th, 2023, City Commission. 6.2, fuel quotes for city departments. 6.3, consider special event on sale alcoholic beverage license filed by Hearst Corner for a wedding reception at Blackburn Hall, 339th Street Southwest, October 14th, 2023. 6.4, personnel. Accept a voluntary retirement of Mike Tislin, Airport Operational Maintenance Technician, effective October 21st, 2023. Recommend hiring Stacy Andrews for circulation deck manager position at the Huron Public Library. 6.5, payment of the bills. 6.6, raffle, Huron Chamber and Visitors Bureau at the Crossroads Event Center, November 2nd through the 4th. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve consent.
Consent motion approved. Need a second? on this?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Harvey. Roll call vote, please, on the consent agenda.
Smith.
Aye.
Weinreich.
Aye.
Bragg.
Aye.
Harvey.
Aye.
Mayor Harrington.
Aye. Number 7, bid quote items. I'm going to call on our city engineer, Brett Runge, to talk to us about 7.1, please.
Thank you, Mayor. 7.1, consider a proposed agreement from DGR Engineering to complete a wastewater flow projection study and then design the Flannery Lift Station Improvements Project and authorize the mayor to sign. So the engineering department received a proposed agreement from DGR Engineering, and basically what that would include is a wastewater flow projection study and then design for the Flannery Lift Station. The cost for this would be $73,500, and that's a hourly not to exceed contract. The Flannery Lift Station is one of the city's major lift stations in town. It basically serves the south side of town from 18th Street south and collects all of that wastewater flow and then pumps it across the James River to the wastewater treatment facility where we start with our pre-treatment. So that's a major part of the community that's picked up by this lift station. It's one of probably our biggest lift station in town. Currently, the current capacity of the lift station has become a concern. I know after rain events, Rob's in the audience here and he could attest to it, but they've had some issues where it's given them problems. They've had to watch it very closely, and it stays at very, very high flows for a long, long time and has trouble keeping up. So there's some concerns there. Plus it is pushing, it's not quite 20 years old since we did some improvements there, but there is some aging equipment in there, and it's had some hydrogen sulfide issues, so it's got some deterioration of the concrete and different things that have added to it. So that's why it's on the list for replacement or improvements. The design services, what they would include is, as you know, on the south side of town, we have a lot of development that's occurring. We have Southtown, we have the Caymans Edition, we have other parts of that community that's developing now. So we'd be looking at land use projections and population projections and basically verifying the wastewater flow rates that we see into the future, and then verifying that we have capacity with the Flannery Lift Station for that. We would also then look at, it will also look at the force main. Right now, I believe it's a 6-inch force main for most of the run, Rob, from there to the wastewater treatment facility. We're going to look at that, at the age, condition, and the sizing of that. If that is recommended to be replaced, that would be a different phase of the project. It would not be part of the design and construction of what we're looking at. Right now, we're looking at just the Flannery Lift Station. We did budget $7,000 for lift station improvements in 2023. 700,000 if I misspoke there, sorry. And these design services would come out of that. And all of this is eligible for the 30% ARPA grant that we've been awarded. The reason why we're pushing some of these projects as hard as we are, it seems like recently we brought a few of these across your desk in the last couple months, is the DANR, the deadline to receive this grant funding. We have to have final plans to them by March 1st, 2024. So all of these plans got to be put together. They can be constructed up to the end of 2026. But we have to have final plans because they're trying to reevaluate if there's additional funds left out there so that they can reappropriate those accordingly. So we need to get this, these plans put together and to capitalize on that money that we've been awarded. So we recommend approval of the agreement and authorization for the mayor to sign it.
Okay, need a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Harvey, approves, second, Mr. Weinrich. Any other question for Brett on this item?
I have one.
Yes, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you. Is this one of the lift stations did we have one, is this the one that was somewhat collapsing when we kind of rebuilt it?
Yeah, this is the one that there was, again, as I mentioned, the hydrogen sulfide, what that comes from is off-gassing off from the wastewater,
Yeah,
and
there
there's
you
various
go.
reasons that cause that. Well, that ends up basically deteriorating the concrete on the inside. We had a protective coating in there, but it did not hold up to it. So basically, rebar and aggregate was exposed in a lot of the lift station. And what they ended up doing is we had additional capacity in this lift station, but they filled up like 10 to 15 feet of that with concrete, which severely reduced our capacity for storage in the lift station, to be able to keep up with the flows back and forth, right? So through some of that, it's become apparent that the lift station, the actual wet well itself, needs improvement, and yeah, we've lost a lot of capacity through those remedies that were provided earlier, before previously, like
And
10
and
years
this
ago, I
would-
think. Somewhere.
This would completely replace that whole unit.
Yep, it would pull it out of the ground and sink another one in, and new pumps, and I should have mentioned, because it's such a significant lift station for the community, we're also including a backup generator as part of the project, is the intent. That's
Yeah.
there stationary to be used when needed, so.
And we certainly hope that it will be needed in the future.
For sure, with the development that's occurring in
We
South
developed
Dakota.
80 acres that we just bought, so
Yeah.
it's time to do it, and it's time to look for the future of doing it too, so.
Hope you do it when it's dry.
I hope it is dry.
Any other questions on this item? Seeing none, need a roll call vote, please?
Smith.
Aye.
Weinreich.
Aye.
Bragg.
Aye.
Harvey.
Aye.
Mayor Harrington.
Aye. Okay, moving on to petitions and communications, 8.1. We're considering reviewing the joint funding agreement with the U.S. Geological Survey for Gauging Station on the James River and authorizing the mayor to sign. This is something we do every year. Need a motion to approve this tonight.
So moved.
Commissioner Weinrich, motion to approve, need a second?
Second?
Second, Commissioner Smith. If there is no questions, I entertain a roll call vote, please.
Smith.
Aye.
Weinreich.
Aye.
Bragg.
Aye.
Harvey.
Aye.
Mayor Harrington.
Aye. Moving on to 8.2, and I'm going to call on our planner to explain to me what 8.2 is.
Yes, this item is to consider the home occupation permit request filed by Scott and Barb DeShepper to continue doing business as Shep's LLC, doing business as Scotty D's Barbecue, South Dakota. So this is a home occupation permit that needed to come in front of this body. All of the planners and the planner and the inspector and the hearing examiner all recommended approval.
Need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Bragg, motion approved, need a second?
Second?
Second, Mr. Smith. Now we have any questions for Mary on this item?
I have a question on
Yes,
the
Mr.
project,
Smith.
maybe. Scott, are you planning to build onto your facility or just remodel the interior?
At some point, we're looking at putting on 24 by 24 onto the garage. When I originally talked to Barry and his team, we were gonna do a second story. Now we're just gonna stay in line with what's there. Because I think that'd be to do a two-story building there would just not look right in the neighborhood. And then where that high side on the garage, where it's got the old high peak, we're gonna take that off and have everything the same height at some point. But that way, everything will look symmetrical and look like it should be there, and not like it's pieced together. Cause that original garage has been built onto 3 times since it was originally there in the 50s. But that's kind of what we're looking at doing. But we'd come, and those sheds that are there would be gone. We'd get rid of them sheds out of there.
Question, so, but you're preparing your food out of your trailer, not the garage, right?
At this time. And what I
So-
want to do is, when we decide to build that other 24 by 24 on there, we want to put a ghost kitchen in there. Because I've got one of my walk-in coolers is already inside the garage. We want to build the other one to get the other one inside and out of sight, so people will see it. And that's the plan.
Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Smith.
So, I know you've been working out of that with your trailers and stuff.
Yep,
For quite some time.
20 years.
Yeah. Has there been any concerns or complaints from the
No,
neighbors?
there's
on
not
this?
been any regarding this matter. What we discovered was when he came in and started asking about renewals and what the process would be to do, would he need a variance or something like that? So we looked up all of his former certificates, and this was the one that he didn't have. So, from 20 years ago, they might not have been, recording this as a type 3 where you had to come in front of this body.
Oh, okay. In anticipation of building, he'd get the building permit, would it have to go back through a similar process again once he?
It depends, potentially. I mean, we'd have to go back and look at all his setbacks and make sure he's meeting all the zoning regs and, yeah. So it is a potential that he would have to do that, but, we would kind of cross that bridge when we get to that point.
Yeah. And this is basically a kind of a cleanup of 20 years. worth.
Correct. It's a 20-year-old mistake.
20 years when I didn't
Yeah,
do it, I thought I did.
yeah,
Seemed harmless enough, right?
yeah.
At least no one complained.
That's all I have, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Need a roll call vote, please.
Smith.
Aye.
Weinreich.
Aye.
Brett.
Aye.
Harvey.
Aye.
Mayor Harrington.
Aye. Okay, moving on to ordinance and resolutions. 9.1, our city finance director, Colin Carey, will talk to us about this one.
Thank you, Mayor. This is asking for second reading on ordinance 2256-30-2024, the annual appropriations. Again, nothing has changed since the first reading, which we appreciate. Property tax revenue has increased 3%. Cost of living, 0.86 for new growth, for a total of $218,807 for general property taxes. Our first and second penny, we are projecting an increase of 6%, $439,000. Third penny, 6%, and 66 additional. The city commission, as you know, approved a salary study that we implemented January 1 of this year. With that in the budget, we've included a 6% increase plus a step. FOP has agreed to this. We're working on those MOUs. And then ASME and them are still waiting to finalize through negotiations. Work comp has gone up 3% this year. Our modifier is down. As increased salaries come, there will be that increase with the 3%. Health insurance, at this time, we budgeted 30%. I know that the committee is working through the renewal now too with the human resources. Property coverage and liability, The average is 10% adjustment, and we actually have them coming to survey our buildings in October. Capital Asset Committee, we began meeting in August, and the recommendations are as follows for the general fund, which includes Parks and Rec, General, Central Park, Community Campus, Dispatch, Capital Projects, the airport, EIP projects, which is airport improvement, and the golf total $3,864,948 for second penny use. The water fund is $2,832,063, which again is water main projects. Sewers $1,933,668. Solid waste $9,335,000, which is the new transfer station project. Our outside budget requests include Huron Chamber and CBB, GHDC, Community Counseling, the Huron Senior Center, Beetle County Humane Society, Dakota Museum, the South Dakota State Fair, People's Transit, Huron Community Band, and Fair Housing Authority. Rate increases for our utilities, meaning water, sewer, and garbage, are an averaging of 4.5%. The commercial side of garbage will increase, and we'll look at that closer towards the end of the year when we do our rates resolutions. We did have first reading September 11th. Again, no changes have been made. Total budget this year is $52,622,628. That's a 14% increase over last year's budget, or this year's budget. I get to working in 3 years here. Mostly, again, including larger projects with the ARPA monies, as well as the solid waste projects. I can't thank my staff enough for helping me get these numbers organized, working with me as staff. The department heads are putting in good budgets, and for you as commissioners, working through these on Monday nights and doing the due diligence to bring in Huron's budget. So with that, I recommend approval. One note, I apologize, in the packet is still the numbers that were incorrect because of the property taxes. There's a new sheet over there for you to rent. So I did bring in new sheets. That was my fault for being on last week.
Would move to approve the second reading of the ordinance.
Move to approve by Commissioner Bragg. Need a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Smith. Any questions for Pauline on this item?
Just want to commend you and your staff as well for all the hard work and getting it prepared.
It's a good year.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Smith.
Aye.
Weinreich.
Aye.
Bragg.
Aye.
Harvey.
Aye.
Mayor Harrington.
Aye. Moving on to departmental items, 10.1, consider memorandum of understanding with the Fraternity Order of Police in Huron, Lodge 3A. The motion to approve.
I'll make that motion to approve 10.1.
Okay.
Second.
Motion to approve by Weinrich, a second by Commissioner Bragg. Any questions on this item? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Smith.
Aye.
Weinreich.
Aye.
Bragg.
Aye.
Harvey.
Aye.
Mayor Harrington.
Aye. Okay, moving on to 10.2. Do we have Chad here tonight? Me too, he was hiding.
That's none of the game.
Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you.
10.2.
10.2 is a request for fiber internet services out to Broadland Creek and the Broadland Creek maintenance shop, the golf maintenance shop. Right now we have services through Santel, which is their high-speed wireless JetNet service, which was planned to be decommissioned in July. They gave us a warning in March. We tried a wireless point-to-point or point-to-multi-point system off of the Huron Regional Airport to get service to both of those locations. And probably due to my not using that kind of system day-to-day, leaves me a little inexperienced in making the configurations work properly. But Santel did say with their fiber project that they had built out to, I believe it's 27th Street, the edge of town, they could cable in fiber to both of those locations for us. And they gave us a quote of $19,000, and I didn't bring my notes with me.
19,752.
Plus, I assume excise taxes and then monthly service fees for those as well. We have looked at some other options as well with that, since we've brought this up on Thursday. I've been in contact with Mid-Continent. I've been in contact with VentureCom, who's also doing a fiber project in the northeast side of Huron off 27th Street. They said they can help us, but VentureCom has to get back to me for a rep to look at a site location to give us a build cost on that, because they have to dig under the highway. It requires DOT's permission. There's some other headaches that go along with that. They're going to possibly increase the build cost. Mid-Continent also, a couple of years ago, we looked at getting their wireless services. They said it was possible, but at that time, their equipment put us right at the edge of where it was effective. Since then, they have updated services at both of their towers south of town and out at Lake Byron, so there's better coverage off of that system. So it started out as a request to do this project that was budgeted for next year, this year, and it gotten brought to, well, now we have a bunch of different hands in the pot and options, and essentially what becomes the best way to handle it.
Jake, can you say again, what is the absolute drop dead? I know you said they'd given you warning, but have they said?
They told us, when I begged for an extension, the gals at Santel said I could have until their last customer comes off that GenNet service, so their last residential. They didn't give me an exact deadline, but they did say it would be before the end of the year, because that's when the project has to be finished.
Can I make a quick comment? So we're doing payroll and golf, all that stuff is in the cloud. And at this point, the last 2 weeks, there was no service out there to enter the payroll. Just found that out today.
I did not know that either. That might be a modem issue that's there, but.
You sent the shop.
Yeah. I'll have to go out and investigate to see what's going on. But it's coming sooner than later. If it is a project that we approve through Santel, to get it done this year, to beat the frost, and that they did say it needed, agreement needed to be signed by the end of the month, so they could get it lined up early October to try and beat predictions of what might be happening.
Any other questions for Chad?
So your other alternative, so you're saying, I mean, just to follow up on that deadline, I mean, because what obviously what we'd like to do is give Midco and VentureCom, and I know you talked to Verizon, give all those folks the chance to get back to us with what they could provide for alternatives before we spend 20 grand on fiber a year. But, so I mean, does that give us, could we talk about this next week still and give you another week to try and work through some of those?
We probably could do one more week and get them, if it is Santel, get them that agreement at the beginning of the month. But I don't think we can get much further out than that without pushing anything going in the ground till next spring. And then that leaves us to what do we do in the meantime?
And I know this came up and you've been doing a lot of pedaling fast already to get what you can get, but do you think in another week some of those folks might get back to you?
I think in another week we'd know for sure. At least we know Santel can do it, it's just, you know, that's a cost. Mid-Continent, I heard from one of their technicians today, wants to do a site survey on Thursday, so we can get through both of those, and I don't know if they have a meter or anything that they use to test the signals and what kind of speeds we get out of it. But they said Thursday we can get out there and look. If it's a go for them, we could essentially use that for both of those locations, forego the $20,000 in cost and just pick up or change 2 services for new local services. And then that would be at no cost other than those monthly fees.
Because what is all uses internet out there, obviously?
So at Broadland, Ben uses his point of sale system, which is also his golf reservation, his office computer, and then he's got the 2 golf simulators. I don't know in the winter what those simulators exactly do, if it's, you know, just a layout of what Broadland is, or if you have the choice to go to Pebble Beach, or, you know, and it has to download different layouts for, you know, what those.
And then obviously the golf maintenance.
Golf maintenance, Jesse has one computer, that's his in his office. He's got the irrigation system, but that's not online. And then during the summer months, he's got a laptop for the part-time kids to punch in and punch out on for time clock.
Where's the transmission line start from it? You mentioned that it starts on
For-
east side of 37?
So on Santel, and you turned it off already.
Yeah,
Sorry, it's all right. So on 27th Street, on the north side of the road, in the ditch next to the highway, you can actually see there's a concrete handhole or cover, which is where the fiber ends and then heads north along the highway. Then it goes all the way to back to the west. So at that turn to go to the golf maintenance shop, there's also another one of those handholds to tie into to take service down the road.
As far as Midco, they're just looking at a different wireless option, that's what they're surveying.
Right.
Did you also ask them about, because they've
We've
got.
talked about it in the past, and I couldn't find my emails to give me the cost on it, but I know we did talk about it, and I think it was when Jim was still the pro shop. And I wanna say that somewhere in the neighborhood of 15,000 just for Broadland was their cost, and that was just for coax service.
The only thing I'll add to this is I did happen to be driving by, and I saw Chad on top of a ladder, on top of a roof, and his assistant was down underneath, and I'm thinking, I'm just gonna keep on going by, because this doesn't look good. Any other questions for us? Roll call vote, please.
So are we gonna,
I would guess I would like to see a little bit more information on it before we made a vote on it, personally.
Okay,
Just defer.
Yeah, defer to them, prefer me.
okay. You good with that, Chad?
I'm good with that.
Okay. We'll see you on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And with that, I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Move to executive session.
Second.
Move to a second. Do we have a second?
I did.
Okay.
Mayor, was that removed from the agenda, or we still have an executive session? Oh,
We removed one of the 3.
So we have a motion and a second. Need a roll call vote, please.
Ed?
Aye.
Conrad?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Harvey?
Aye.
Mayor Harrington?
Aye.